Hey everybody, welcome back to Home Studio Pro. I'm glad you're here, and I can't wait to share with you my custom settings for this microphone, the MKH 416 by Sennheiser, in tandem with the Rodecaster Pro 2. I've been using this mic for several years now. I only recently got my hands on this RCP2. It is so impressive how versatile it is, a mixer, an interface, great for sound production, for live streaming, the smart pads, the zero latency DSP. I could go on and on, but what I really wanted to do was figure out all the different presets I could make on this Rodecaster Pro 2 for all the different microphones that I utilize to just get them right. So when I plug it in, I know I'm going to get the same sound every single time. So I'm sharing these custom settings that I've come up with for me, with you later on in the video. But what you really need to understand is that my voice and this room are also part of how you're hearing this audio right now. Your voice is going to sound different naturally. You might need different settings. Your room probably sounds a little bit different, maybe better treated, maybe less treated than my home studio, which, by the way, is acoustically deadened here inside. There's also no computer fans. There's not a lot of external outside noise right now. So just understand that your room and your environment are a huge part of your sound. And for as much as you might have the exact same gear as I have here, and in just a second you'll have the same settings, you also need to make sure that your room is acoustically up to standard if you really want to get a great sounding recording. Okay, right now you're hearing me with this processing chain turned on. It is enabled. Now I've just turned it off. Okay, so now you're hearing just the microphone at 31 dB on this condenser setting going straight into the Rodecaster, and here is how it sounds. The venerable MKH 416 is a compact pressure gradient microphone with a short interference tube, highly immune to humidity due to its RF condenser design. Okay, I'm going to leave it here on unprocessed, and I'm going to go through some of the default presets from Rode. These go for all the different microphones. Here is the neutral preset. Now you can see here very basic settings. They're not advanced by any means. Depth, sparkle, and punch. Depth is probably the low end, sparkle is the top frequencies, and punch is what I interpret to be a little bit of compression and a little bit of expansion. The venerable MKH 416 is a compact pressure gradient microphone with a short interference tube, highly immune to humidity due to its RF condenser design. All right, so that's how it sounds, and you can kind of see that everything is turned up about a quarter of the way, which is now different when I turn on the podcast studio because now everything is about, well, 75% up. And you can hear how this sounds different, right? My voice has a little bit more presence, effect to it. The depth, the sparkle, and the punch, have all increased. So here's how this sounds. The venerable MKH 416 is a compact pressure gradient microphone with a short interference tube, highly immune to humidity due to its RF condenser design. There you go. Now, I'll turn the processing back off, and let me also tell you that a couple things matter here. Mic technique. I am close talking this mic, and I'm also using it with the wind foam on. If I take it off, it might even have a more present sound to it, a different sound to it. But all of these things, again, matter. Distance to the mic, and typically I have to tell you that with condensers, I'm usually the hang loose distance away. Like my mouth is where my thumb is at, and the mic, front of the mic, the business end of the mic is where my pinky's at. Dynamics, I typically do half that distance, and for whatever reason with this 416, I've just found that I use more of a dynamic distance in terms of close talking it. So a lot of times when I use this mic, I literally am basically knuckles to my thumb on the distance away from my mouth to the microphone. Okay, so we did the broadcast setting. Did we do that already? Let me just do that in case we didn't. Depth, sparkle, and punch. Excuse me, here's what they sound like. The venerable MKH 416 is a compact pressure gradient microphone with a short interference tube, highly immune to humidity due to its RF condenser design. All right, so that's pretty thick, and you can see everything here is turned up almost all the way to the max. I mean, this does kind of sound like, radio DJ-ish. Okay, so now that you've heard that, let me turn off all of the processing here. So we're back to completely raw, dry, unprocessed, whatever you want to call it. Here is my MKH 416 preset, which I will share all the details here and now. Again, 31 dB is the gain. Let's get into the high-pass filter. It's on at 40 hertz at a 6 dB per octave slope, so it's very low and it's very shallow. Not doing a lot of low cutting or high-pass filtering here. De-esser is super important here, especially on this 416. Sorry if I'm blowing your ears out right now, but hopefully the de-esser is doing its job. At about 6,000 hertz, I've got the threshold at negative 30 dB, a 3.0 to 1 ratio. Attack is pretty quick, so is the release, and no gain here, but you can see that this line is basically where it's going to start cutting things off. If you turn it up, it's going to squelch those frequencies at 5,900 hertz and around it even more. And it gets to the point where when you turn this all the way, in fact, let me just show you. When you turn it up too high here, it sounds like, yeah, you can hear how this sounds. Like, that's terrible. Now it's up at 54. Here's what it sounds like at 43. So this is only 13 dB higher, but right around this 30 spot, right around the 30 spot, seems to be a comfortable mix of de-essing, but not changing the sound on the high end. It doesn't destroy the top end. So that's kind of where I leave that. And yeah, you want to see that ball just kind of working actively during your sibilant moments. Oops, didn't want to do that. Okay, then we get into the noise gate. This is a pretty quiet microphone. Let me be quiet for just a second. I'll turn it on and off. I can hear something like a power supply buzzing in here somewhere. With this, I can't hear it with the naked ear, but I can hear it through the microphone. Here's my gating settings. The threshold at negative 44.4, the attack at 131, the hold at 116 milliseconds, the release at 145. The range is what really matters. This is basically the intensity of the gating. You can turn it all the way off, or I can double it and put it at like 10. You know, this is really silent when I'm not talking. And to be honest, in this room, which is acoustically treated, there's no reverb, it's fine. But if I did this setting in a noisy room, it would not sound great because the gate and expansion just cannot handle reverb very well. I know people want to use it as a fix. Was that at 5? By the way, if you're not sure of your settings, always just go ahead and re-click them and your settings will reappear. Yeah, it was at 5. Gating and expansion in a reverberant room, it's a way to try and cheat the problem, but you'll never actually fix it that way. So range at 5 and hysteresis at 0.27. Okay, let's move on to the compressor settings. Threshold at negative 22.8, ratio 3.5 to 1, the attack and the release both quick. And I am using 2.3 dB of makeup gain, and all I really want to see is that ball kind of hitting that curve and going up that slope. That means that the compressor is active. Think of that as kind of like the needle actually moving on like an LA2A or something. That means that as soon as it passes that bend, that I'm actually getting some compression to my sound and my signal, which I want. I mean, I don't want it to be slamming against the wall up there. I certainly don't want that. But under normal speech, like I just want it to be turning that corner kind of like it is right now. That's when I know my settings are correct. And again, my voice, my projection, the way you talk, they're different. So just understand that these numbers may be different for you. Equalizer settings, let me go ahead and turn the EQ entirely off. Here's what it sounds like. And then here's what it sounds like on. There's just a different punch, right? And there's a different presence to this sound when the EQ is on. That's what I'm shooting for here. High bell, I'm actually cutting 0.5 dB at 8100 hertz. This microphone has a ton of presence and top end. It does not need any more. In fact, it needs a little bit less. So I'm doing that there. The mid bell, I always do this cut somewhere between 250 and 300 hertz. Here at 281, I'm cutting 1.7. And then at 90 hertz on the low bell, I'm using a 1.4 dB boost. And again, that's on. The big bottom and the oral exciter are both on. The big bottom is tuned at 90 hertz at a 27% drive. And then the oral exciter is utilizing the speech fundamental frequencies right around 1500 hertz. But it goes up, as you can see, probably up to about 5,000 hertz. And I've got that tuned at 40%. I really want to get some saturation in that sound to try and bring through some clarity. Since, again, I'm using this microphone for speech, I really want to make sure that those frequencies are cutting through. After that, it's just panning. Obviously, I'm dead center on the channel. And there you go. Those are my custom settings here for the 416. It's also important to show you this. You can make custom settings for all of the different microphones that you have. I highly recommend it. I would always highly recommend titling your preset with the gain volume that you want for your preamp, because that does not transfer over. You still have to dial that number in every single time. So for me, I know with this microphone and these settings and the way I talk, 31 dB is right exactly where I want to be. And to do that, to save your settings, by the way, just go here, make them in advanced, and then hit that advanced button. Oh, do you want to save your preset? You hit save preset. Absolutely, I do. It's as simple as that. So save your presets, make your presets, steal my numbers on the preset. And thank you, by the way, for watching this video all the way to the end. If you liked it, if it helped you, thumbs up. I'd really appreciate that. And don't forget to subscribe here on Home Studio Pro so that I can see you next time.